welcome to DevReady Podcast, where we're helping non-techs build better tech. Today, we're joined by Alexandra Andrews, who's my personal coach, or the founder, director of My Personal Coach. She's an executive business and personal coach, and actually known Alex for quite a number of years, and has been one of my coaches, past and present, and helping me on the journey of business and personal growth. And I'd love to share an episode for people just to reflect on how they might maximize getting the best out of themselves and also their team on their journey. Alex, thanks for joining us.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Now, I'd love for you just to dive in and tell us a bit about your background first and foremost, so people get an understanding of who you are.
Okay, well, look, I've been a coach for probably the last 14 years, and I suppose before I was a coach, I've had lots of experiences in different fields of businesses, having my own online, working for people. So I bring to the coaching a whole world of experience. So I'm able to help clients navigate through whatever's going on in their life. And I suppose, being an executive business and life coach, I do cover it all, because not every person just has one thing going on in their life. An executive has personal issues that go through, their day. Sometimes it can affect them. So you have to be across everything. So with my coaching, and obviously been doing it a very long time, you need to be able to decipher what's going on for your client. Now, in terms of experience, obviously, doing lots and lots of courses. I love learning. I keep on learning. I keep on reading books. I keep on delving deeper and deeper to add to my toolkit. So a little while ago, I have also been a Tony Robbins coach, master coach, and that was wonderful, wonderful experience. And
that's how we met.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And that's great. But I just don't have time. I had to prioritize my personal clients. But that was wonderful, and obviously coaching hours. I've done a huge amount of coaching hours, so that's why I've come across every situation. There is probably nothing I've heard or had to deal with in terms of coaching. So love that. But besides all the other things that I have in my toolkit, what honestly serves me the best in what I do is my own intuition and gut feel, because sometimes a client may say something and I will question and pull things apart if I really don't feel that there's a connection or authenticity with what they're saying and doing. And that's my skill, because I can really dive deep in terms of unplugging what we think is our truth. Because we all have our own filter system, and sometimes we think, no, this is really how I feel, but all your actions are telling me something different. So it's really, absolutely. It's just getting authenticity. So my experience, and what I'd like to say, the intuition is my secret weapon. And that's why I do laugh, because clients will just laugh and go, okay, well, how on earth would you come in, get into that? Exactly. And they love it. So that's where it's like those aha moments, and that's my specialty, which is great.
Just on that one, do you think you've learned that, or do you think that you always had that?
I've always had that. And what I've learned to do is absolutely trust it. So I think it's one of those things, and everybody has that. It's, sorry, but a lot of guys go, oh, it's just a gut feel. Whereas women don't mind to sometimes say, no, it's my intuition. But no, definitely I've had a huge life of just knowing things and, discovering and tuning that. And that's also a lot of courses I've done, just even in terms of just getting really good at deciphering and trusting that feel, that thing that you're picking up, and calling it out. So I'm very good at, backing myself.
I think that's probably an interesting point, because a lot of people maybe don't listen to what they're feeling half the time, and just go with the flow, or just get involved in things maybe they shouldn't be when they. And I've done that in the past, where you just get sucked into opportunities and just feel, oh, this doesn't feel right, but sounds great, and then it just ends up being what you
Yeah.
felt rather than what it
Well,
sounded like. So
and that
yeah,
is such a good
yeah,
point, because
hmm
that honestly
yeah,
comes up all the time. And the only thing that I could
mm,
honestly say to you and to your listeners in terms of that is to sit in reflection. If you're thinking it too much, it may not be right. If you are feeling it, then you really have to question that. What is going on that I'm feeling
hmm
this is not right? And honestly, any decision, and especially an important decision, put it on paper, because there is something different between you thinking something and when you're writing it, because you're detaching it from that thinking process. Once you put it on paper, you're actually observing what's going on for
mm.
yourself. So that would be something that would be good.
And up here, it just reflects over and over and over again, and we have this. We think about the same thing in 15 different ways. When putting on paper, it can be a lot simpler. So yes, I would
Yep.
agree with that.
Yes,
Paper
yes,
is king.
Andrew,
Yes.
and having known you very well,
Yes.
we know that
Correct.
could be correct. But because sometimes, as you know, it's a little bit like paralysis by analysis,
Mm-hmm.
and we're looping. We do that
Mm.
loop of crazy thinking, and then we confuse ourselves. What's right? What's not? So it's about doing that, and that's what a good coach
Mm.
does. They can actually
Mm.
pull that apart to work out, where the decision's coming from. A lot of decisions, believe it or not, can be made from ego. And that's a really interesting one, thinking, oh, that decision sounds good, looks good, feels good, but it doesn't feel right.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's about deciphering what's really going on.
Digging a little bit on that, so people who don't have context, ego, what does that mean to you, and what should people be looking at when they're hearing that from you? I would say.
I think what it is
Mm-hmm.
working out your why. Why are you doing a certain business decision? Why are you thinking a certain thing? Because I think your why is very important. And if you really decipher why, and I'll tell you something for a fact, if the first answer you give as to your why,
Yeah.
go deeper, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's never the first answer. You will say what's safe. So we
True.
say what's safe in terms of, oh, no, well, it's
Mm-hmm.
great. And it could sound, look, it helps others and it's great.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it'll be, okay, great. So when you do that, what's next? And then you'll go into another thing. So, okay, well, it's about this. And then ask yourself, okay, great. So when you have that, why is that important? And until you sort of just keep on asking yourself the question
Mm-hmm.
until you really get down to that fundamental heartfelt why,
Mm-hmm.
then that's true fuel. And honestly, that would answer your question.
I was taken through a process about a month ago, actually, which is the deeper why. And effectively, it is that, but you will find that it's generally a feeling that we're looking to get from anything. And that deeper why is that feeling, that happiness, that freedom, whatever it might be. But yeah, it was quite an interesting process where it took you away from, yep, this is what I want, and then understanding the why. And it's generally it's a feeling sensation that we want to get to, not the thing. So yeah, if you're digging and you're finding a
Yeah.
thing, I think let's keep digging for some sort of feeling, emotional attachment to something, which is what I found quite powerful and quite simplistic too.
Look, it is. And I suppose just even the process you went through, that's why they probably have processes, because of exactly what you're saying,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
right? That's 100%
Mm-hmm.
it, because really at the end
Mm-hmm.
of the day, it's something actually that we need to be taught. It sounds bizarre, but we get so used to living a life built on other people's filter systems.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. I was actually run by a guy named Trevor Hendy. He was an ex-Iron Man. I don't know if you know that name. He's probably in his 50s or so now, but he took you through that process. He's a very intriguing guy. So if you get a chance to see Trevor or meet Trevor, I think you would align with him, and a lot of people would get a lot from him. So yes, he's got a good character, ex-Iron Man type guy.
Fantastic.
Yeah, really cool, very good heart
Right.
type felt person, very connected to who he is. And he's learned that across the journey and had his own process and journey and growth that, we all either striving for or not even aware of yet, depending on where we're listening from. But to dig in a little bit more, as a lot of people that will be listening are generally visionary, big picture thinkers, non-technical people looking to drive new products. What would you say to them that they're looking to drive a new initiative, something new, something innovative, in terms of carving out the team around them or the infrastructure around them, what's the best place for them to start or start thinking about that from your perspective?
Look, I suppose there's so many answers to this, but I would honestly say top line is to really work out what your
Mm-hmm.
outcome is. So once you're really attached to the outcome of what it is that you are trying to do, look at what that is and work backwards. So the outcome of what we want
Mm-hmm.
is ABC. Then have a look at your own values around that. Okay, why is that important to you? So once you understand the outcome, why you understand the why
Mm-hmm.
for that outcome, then you work backwards in terms of working out who's going to be in alignment with what you're trying to do.
That's a key
Okay,
word,
so
yeah.
we want to, yes, absolutely is, because you really have to have your fundamentals. It's not just a business plan or a good business idea. You can have a great idea, fantastic, wonderful, but where does that idea come from? Is it the fact that you just think, oh, it's a quick thing and you could make money? Is it something that you're passionate about because you feel, look, this is my life's journey. I love this. If I could help people, I always love this saying, serve a purpose and your purpose will serve you.
Powerful.
But I think that but it's so true. So all I would say is, and this is so true, if I would have a client that has the outcome, they're really passionate about wanting to do something, it's building the fundamentals to work out, firstly, who your ideal in a service sort of situation, who your ideal client would be. Why is that your ideal client? Because honestly, I'm not going to be sitting here saying to you, run a business and don't make money. That's not what it's about. Meaning, it doesn't matter whether you're doing it just for the money or you're doing it to make the money to help others. It doesn't matter what it is that you're doing. At the end of the day, if we change the word money to shells, and we wouldn't have such a bad connotation with it. So money is the thing that turns the economy, and we give and it shares and it goes around in circles. That's all good. But it's the fact that working out what it is that I want to do with this product or service, why is it important, and then actually working out, okay, my ideal client is this type of person. Who do I need to service that? Now, the other thing that you want to do in terms of a business owner is actually work out what role you have in it. Now, at the beginning of a business, we wear every hat. Okay, we know that.
Yeah, it becomes difficult to get out of those hats over the journey, but you need
It
to, yeah,
does.
no, that's a
Yeah,
fair point.
and I
Yeah.
agree. So everybody has,
Mm-hmm.
the hats that they wear, whether it's and we call this, and even Tony says this, the artist, the manager, leader, or the entrepreneur. So who are you? And it's about saying, well, this is my specialty. The other ones I'm not fantastic at. So therefore seek those out. But I know that sometimes with a new business, depending on how much money you have backing you in this, you may need to do it all. But fundamentally, the type of people that you would want to employ as you are starting to build that team around that is going to be first and foremost the things that you're not good at. And you start plumping that out.
Well, the things and that becomes interesting because we generally attract people that are like us. So it sometimes can be pushing against that and ensuring that we get the right people for the business that still align with the values and direction, but may not be like you in totality, because we get people like us that just have multiple people doing the same thing and just doing the same thing they love, and all the other things get left behind. So just to add something on top of that, I found that I've attracted that in the past, and you've got to let go of that, really.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And you know what? It's not a bad thing. And let me say this, before I've got to quantify it's not a bad thing. However, sometimes ego comes into that, because what we do is we end up mirroring and matching. So when we're feeling comfortable with somebody, it means that they're like us. But as you've just touched on there, that is a really, really important point, because we think, oh, I get on with this person. But maybe you need somebody who's a little bit more cutthroat, that'll make more business decisions based on a return instead of emotion.
Yes.
And I'm giving that as an example, but you may need that. So therefore, this is where I'm saying, if you know what the outcome is at the end of the day, and you're looking at this business from an outsider's point of view, looking in and going, what is it that I need? Okay, so I need somebody who makes the product, somebody who works out how to get that product to market, and somebody who can look at the bigger picture to say that product would be fantastic globally. We could, align different businesses. We could float this in 5 years' time. Whatever it is, you need to have somebody in each section. Now, you and I have both done this with your business, and this is what I loved about working with you and your company, is that you understand that everybody in the business has fundamental, qualities.
Correct.
When you go in, and we've done this, and like we did with your business, we did disc profiles for every one of your staff, and you can start to understand, and this is what's really interesting, that certain people in, let's take it, your business, and without going into a lot of stuff with the business,
happy to share, that's fine, but yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, no, but it was just interesting because all your developers are a certain type of...
They are, of this profile and communication style and risk tolerance, and all similar, which is quite interesting.
Exactly. Absolutely. And you can even look at you and Anthony as two of the owners of that business and say, well, you two are different. Okay, so, but that's great.
Yes.
Because fundamentally you're good at one area, he's good at another area, but together you make a great team. Now, the other thing is, it's understanding that. So from your point of view, or his point of view, you're not getting the shits at each other, because it's nothing personal. That's how you work, that's how he works, and it's coming together.
It just took us a little while to not get the shits at each other and understand each other. I think that's important, because when you are very different in thinking and decision making and thought process, and everything, it can be quite daunting and challenging, especially in the early days it was, because I just thought this way and I thought I was right all the time, and he did the same. Then we let go and just said, okay, I hear you, I understand you. This is my perspective, and I think you've got to learn to work with people that are different.
And what's beautiful, because obviously, you've said you don't mind sharing. I do quote, not from, obviously anonymously, so no one knows the business. But when I was doing the coaching and training of your organization, what I loved was where one of your staff had said to, obviously, one of you directors, and I won't name names of who did what, but they said, wow, okay, now I understand. I just thought you were being difficult, or being a shit, or being whatever. I don't know if you remember that. And it was quite, do you remember that?
Oh, that still gets raised. And I think so doing something of that extent and digging in. I've done different types of profiling in the business over the time and over the journey too.
Yes.
It just gives continuous insight as to how we think and operate. And there's things like wealth dynamics, talent dynamics I've used quite a bit in the business as well, which is more around the type of seats and roles you have in it, you would be more aligned to in a business. And I've seen a bit of input and insight from that. Even the team having conversations on their results, they start to realize, I'm probably good at that, but I just was more negatively associated to that. So they can reflect on it and just assess. But I think it's important to understand who we work with, and even ourselves, because in reality, if we're not looking at ourselves to how we're communicating and portraying ourselves, I think it's difficult.
Of course. Look, absolutely. And I think, well done for you to be open to that, because there's a lot of business owners, and probably some of your listeners, who may not delve into that sort of stuff because they're so busy in getting a business up and running, that they lose sight of trying to align themselves and get the best people on their team, but to be able to communicate, because as a team you have to, and I've seen this before. I have a lot of companies that I take to, whether they're literally about to float or they IPO, and to have a tight team is fundamental in any success. So if you're starting out, you really want to just know who you are and who the person is that you're about to employ, and understand how you need to talk to them. Okay. And vice versa. So if that person, is one that can't take, their DISC profile shows that they can't take criticism because they criticize themselves too much as well, then as an owner and a boss, you don't want to now be criticizing them. There are different ways of being able to proactively and productively give feedback. Okay, but you need to understand fundamentally how you're talking to them to get the best results for you and for them.
That's made a big difference on how I communicate with teams. So, and the guys in our team, because I would do the same thing with everybody, but some people need to hear things different ways. And we generally communicate how we would like to receive information right? Because that's what we know, but that's generally doesn't work for everybody. It'll work for people that are like you, but not others.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic. So if you are building team and looking to build team or have a team, dig in, understand each person's profile, and you'll find that people that you sort of have a challenge with, they're different, and that's fine. And just understanding how you communicate can make all the difference in terms of getting outcomes, because you want different people and different thinking in a team. Otherwise, it's just everyone's doing the same thing and driving down the same path, and no one's questioning too.
Yeah, no, look, absolutely. And let me tell you, obviously, you know, with a lot of startup businesses and ones that are even just, let's call them new in business, and that's a few years, and you would have clients who are starting off, but also clients who are growing and need to change and evolve. So, and I have a lot of those clients where they will, they'll fill out a DISC profile, and we'll have a meeting about, okay, these are the people that I'm wanting to employ. These are the DISC profiles, and we talk about that. So that, let's say that there's 3 people there, we talk about the DISC profiling, and we work out what's going to fit in best, or to be able to say, this is how you manage this person, this is how you manage that one, and this is how you manage the other one. And then it's up to them to say, okay, this is a better fit, I think, for the team of who we've got. So that is a very important thing. And I do that very often. And I found that is perfect, because fundamentally, you don't want to squeeze somebody into a role that really is not their personality. Okay, it's almost like giving an introvert, and it's not to say an introvert can't be a salesperson. That's not what I'm saying, because there's so many different levels of assessment on this. So there's the DISC profile plus the motivators. So all in all, you can see that. However, if somebody doesn't like connecting with others or making a cold call, getting them to do it is actually just going to make them feel stressed. And if they're stressed, they're not going to be happy, and they're not going to want to perform. So it's going to be a lose-lose situation, because you're trying to fundamentally make somebody who they're not.
Stress goes up and intelligent thinking goes down.
Exactly. We become very reactive.
We need to be. And I think it's called that flow. People use that word and coin that around flow state. And flow energy is where you're happy doing what you're doing, and you're contributing at a bigger level, and consistently in that, not just for an hour a week and the other 35 hours you're not enjoying it all. That's not a place where you're going to get the best out of your team and people. There's someone that will love that role, whatever that is. If it's an accounting role, if you've got a salesperson in an accounting role, it's not going to work. But if you've got someone that loves numbers, they'll just thrive on that. So,
absolutely. And at the end of the day, we want a happy team, and that's what happens. So in any organization, the happier you are, the happier they are. Oh, I mean, everyone wants to turn up to work. I've had so many executives who do not want to turn up to work because of other people, other situations, and how they feel every single day.
That's if it's becoming a burden just to work with team people, and those things could be simply fixed by just understanding each other a little bit differently, sometimes, but sometimes not. Sometimes they're not the right dynamic or values, and that goes back to values and why. And if they're not aligned to that, which is something you said at the top of it, then there's a problem that we need to look at and reflect on. Interesting. Team has been a focus of ours for quite a while, and it's always engaged. And you mentioned something about taking the business from where it is now at a growth level and scaling it up. Can you reflect on some of the learning there? Because it is like reinventing the business over and over again, I've found in my experience. What have you found working with businesses that have got to a certain plateau and they're basically stuck and they're looking to either level up or they're going sideways effectively? What's some of the thinking that we've had in the past is not going to get us to the same level of thinking? What is the statement? Same level of thinking is not. I don't even know it. What is it off the top of my head? Same.
Well, like I like to say, do what you've always done, get what you've always got. So sometimes, that what's taken you to a certain level isn't going to take you to the next level. But it's about actually being adaptable. And what I would say is for everybody to have a check-in at certain milestones of a business. And even though you might be thinking, oh, the business is going really well. No, it's great. We're happy, and so busy that you actually don't work on the business anymore. But what you fundamentally have to do is reassess. So let's just say, obviously, when it's starting up, you'll get the feel of it. And sometimes you feel things, you need to suss things out. And what I find is people quit too early. Okay, so let's just say that they're working on something, they're developing something, and it's not quite catching. It's not quite, taking off at that particular moment. It's really about dissecting what it is that you're doing and having some measures. It's those sort of key indicators. And as we always say, you can't manage what you can't measure. So you want to start measuring what it is that you're doing within that business. Let's say you've got a product-based business. It's about taking off, okay, what are loss leaders? What is it that is taking off? And then you suddenly see that the essence of your business, you might think, I've got 10 products. I'm using this as an example, 10 products, love all these products, but really fundamentally, 4 of those products are doing really well, but you think your business is heading one way, yet it's taking you in the direction of what your customers want in another direction. So it's about reassessing that and saying, great, well, those 4 products are obviously what people want. Remember, serve a purpose and your purpose will serve you. So your customers fundamentally want these items. So therefore, what can I do around those items that are going to service them better?
Yeah, it's like you said, measure. I think I think every business owner that's been in that busy state has sometimes forgot about the business and the strategy. And I hope there's some out there that haven't, but I'm sure there's plenty that have. Give me time to reflect.
Look, I think we're all. I think we're all. We can all be accused of that. Okay, and that's why, for instance, some people, oh gosh, I want to smack someone when they say this to me. But why do people need coaches? What's wrong with them? and I love the fact that, I mean, this question gets asked, but actually, the more let's call it emotionally intelligent or wanting to absolutely do well in something, they're open to hear some criticism. They're open to see that there's a new way of doing something. To be closed off that I'm doing what I'm doing and I know what I'm doing. I don't need a coach. I don't need a mentor. I don't need any business. I don't need anything from anyone else. Actually just keeps you in your box. And I can say sometimes it's about opening that box up and allowing somebody to hear your thought process, to be able to witness what you're doing. And honestly, with my clients, let's say it's half an hour each week, every second week, but we literally look at, and this is where I will say to clients, okay, what are we measuring? What are we doing? Because there are fundamental gauges where I keep connecting them back to that. And they'll say, oh, I'm so busy. I haven't had time to do this. But honestly, every time I slow them down a tiny bit, and I'm talking, minutes, we're not slowing you down, but because they're in overwhelm and their brain is churning around, they think, oh my gosh, I'm busy, can't do. But when you have a coaching session, it slows you down enough for you to just be able to have a moment of reflection. A moment of reflection to say, right, what is working on? I'm really not happy with this. Yeah, exactly. And sometimes, half an hour is just something for you. It's for an individual to say, right, what am I working on? What am I being reflecting on? And as you know, half an hour, we get a lot in there because obviously, there's a lot of reflection. We're working on things in quite a fast mode, but it's being open.
You need to be open
to understanding what you're doing right.
Yeah.
And so what I would say for a business, sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted to make this point. When you've got a new business, I would honestly be having a check-in initially, each couple of weeks and then each couple of months, because, like at the beginning, you're trying to work out, is this working? Is that working? And also to not lose momentum in feeling that, because I think what happens is we start new businesses saying, oh, this is what it's going to look like, what it's going to feel like. And sometimes it doesn't look like that at that particular moment. And you lose your enthusiasm for something because it's not working. But it's not that it's not working, it's tweaking things and being, as we just said, agile. We might need to go into this area. Maybe something I'm doing is not 100% right. Maybe I need to change something up. It's being very open to that and being, in that agile state that we can move and flow so that and also just have that level of determination to stay with it, stick with it, and keep your motivation. Because honestly, you and I both know motivation and mindset in any business that's starting up or trying to reassess what they're doing is fundamentally what causes failure.
Agree.
Yes.
And I think the discipline to stick with something for a long term, it's important. Especially if you're walking into a new area, if you expect to give it a year or two and to be on top of the world, that's very rare. You might be finding your feet by year two if you're lucky. So it's always a learning experience. And I think that the reflecting on business, it's been a journey of both personal growth, business growth as well, and just looking at who you need to become in a business as well at sometimes, and just reflecting on that. Because the leader you are now you will need to be a different leader in 6 months, 12 months, 15 months, 24 months, whatever that time frame is, because the business dynamic will change depending on what the new challenge is, because every business has a challenge that you're facing. And I think just learning and reflecting, and the reason why I've been in coaching sittings for 4, 5+ years myself is it does give you that time to reflect. And one of the things for me is sometimes you can get addicted to being busy too, and we can make ourselves busy. I found sometimes I just get drawn to my computer and saying, "Oh, I've got to do something," but in reality, I'm just creating that busyness. So it's good to reflect and understand who we are and build that awareness, so we can actually drive forward a lot faster with a lot less baggage on the back. Really, that's what I've found.
Oh, absolutely. And as we talked about before, your why fundamentally is going to, the deeper and more connected you are to that why, is going to be the fuel that keeps you going. And don't be discouraged. Like, don't be discouraged that you feel like quitting. My goodness, that's normal. If you didn't, then that would be not normal.
Everyone gets to that moment where they think, "Oh, she could do something else." But as long as you don't hop from something else to something else to something else to something else and never really commit, the feeling's natural. That thought is natural.
And let me tell you, I think that fundamentally we talk about mindset, but, sometimes we lose faith in ourselves. We do. Maybe I'm not the one to do it. Maybe it's not that. It's the fact of trying to work out what isn't working and just being proactive in saying, okay, fundamentally, this isn't what's working, or maybe it's my mindset, which means that, for instance, if I'm feeling like, oh, this business is failing, why is it that you would be motivated to ring and do all the things that you had to do to make it grow? Because you're feeling like shit, excuse my language, but you're not feeling good. So what would make you want to thrive in that area? So really your mindset, and this is, you and I both know that there are certain tools to keep you back into that wonderful mindset, because fundamentally you don't want to be living in reaction in your business. You want to be driving the bus. You want to be proactive in those decisions and what you're doing. And that's setting yourself up first, your mindset. As we've talked about, good health, good nutrition, your mindset, all of these things go into and are very important. It's not just about, sitting at your desk and doing the work. You have to build up a good resilience so that when you do feel like quitting or you're feeling doubt, that you can pull yourself back into line and say, yep, okay, this is what it is, reflect on it, but you have certain tools that pull you forward to get where you need to go.
Yeah, I think we can take a lot of things personally, and I've done that a few times in the past. One thing that's got me through that is I think the agile piece that you're talking about there is business challenges are nothing personal. I tell this to my team all the time: the reflection of the processes that we currently have, that gives me something to focus on, which is process rather than the personal and emotional state. So just separating yourself from the business can be a good thing, and just taking that personal approach out of it. So that's something I've learned over the journey that's served me a lot. So trying to take things personally, that's just the process that you have. So yes, that's give me something to work on now, which is a positive.
Absolutely. And look, it's an interesting thing, just to give you an example. I was in an organization where I was called in. There's a whole lot of executives. I'm literally coaching all the executives. And I was given from the HR department all the exiting reports of why people left the organization based on there were two particular people that were really personality-wise causing problems. So they had a high turnover of staff.
Okay.
And it was interesting because when I started my first session, or before I started the first session with, let's say, one of the particular executives, you know, it was, oh, don't ask him that question, and oh no, don't do that. And I'm sitting there thinking they were almost predetermining, because it's almost like they were scared of his reaction. And honestly, this man was a wonderful man. He had so many amazing qualities, but what he was doing is running a race just with one leg. So it was really through coaching him, we discovered that he had this other side of him that loved to train and loved to do all this other stuff, but he just wasn't in touch with it because his filter system was a certain way. And when we reconnected him with that, we totally changed it. So what I'm trying to say here about mindset and how a team works, and any business is like this, see with this example how you can see fundamentally, firstly, disprofiling, getting your team purring well, the mindset of that particular person, the mindset shifted. So therefore, the result was that the business flowed really well in the end. But it all comes down to that individual. That's where it all starts.
Oh, that's their driving a facet of the business. So understanding themselves brings awareness. I think there's a lot of blind spots that a coach can open you up to. So I think that's been a beautiful episode just to share what a coaching experience could feel like, look like, and also get an understanding of some of the dynamics within team as you grow team and yourself too. So hopefully people can reflect on this episode and maybe even reach out and get some help if they need some sort of coaching around business and structuring things. If anyone's interested, Alex, how can they reach out and have a chat to you and see how they might be able to drive their business faster, better moving forward?
Yeah, look, absolutely. I mean, they can shoot me, an email, Alexandra at mypersonalcoach.com.au, or even just send me a quick SMS on 0419 953 233. I don't know. I mean, but look, as I said, the one thing I would honestly just recommend for your clients on a departing note is have a chat to a coach. It doesn't need to be me. It can be anyone, but have a chat to them and see if you've got a good rapport. Okay. Because yes, you do. You want to know that what you're working on, that coach gets. And you also want to make sure that they've got a lot of coaching hours under their belt and different experiences, because you don't know what's going to come up in the session, and you need somebody to dynamically weave all through different processes. So that's all. So, and I hope that I've given, a little bit of a helping hand to all your clients.
No, thank you, Alex. It's been a pleasure as always. And thanks for sharing a bit about the coaching experience and some of the things we can some tools we can take into our business that we can currently use right now to process, for example, understanding our whys, our values, our alignment when we bring on team, I think was critical to some of the things that you said. So I really appreciate it, and great to connect again.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, and we will talk soon.
Thank you. Cheers, Alex.
Okay, see you. Bye, Andrew. See you.